So my topic is divine discontent. Will I be my Valentine? It is said that love isn't what you say, love is what you do. And I invite us to consider that for ourselves as well as for others. This doing, especially for ourselves, having to do with standing in our integrity, recognizing what's true for us and what's not, might make us a little uncomfortable. There's an expression, I think it was around the turn of the century, last century, that newspaper people comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. And I would suggest that perhaps ministers do the same thing, because we're here to tell you, to remind you of the truth of your being, but also to just very gently nudge you in the ribs and remind you that as good as it is, it could be better. And if it's not real good, you're not stuck with it. So that's what I'm talking about this morning. And ideally, I'll make you just the slightest bit uncomfortable. But we want to be comfortable. We want to be warm and fuzzy. We want to be, especially in 2024 and especially in San Diego, and I will admit to you that I was not a particularly happy person because it's supposed to be sunny and 75 degrees, and it wasn't this week. And I have and some of you have met my furry, long-haired dog. And Maggie needs to go out and do what Maggie needs to go out and do. And 3 or 4 times a day, whether it's rain or shine. And so we do that, and then we come in, and I'm trying to deal with the dog and have an umbrella in the other hand, and then we come in, and I have to towel her down, and she absolutely loves the experience, and so she's playing towel, and so we're wrestling with the towel, and I'm like, for the love of God, would you just let me dry you off? I am greatly inconvenienced. We want to be warm and dry and comfortable and all of that. Well, I want to be. Maybe you don't, and that's all right. But I want to be warm and dry and comfortable. But in our lives, very often we get that divine discontent. That just the beginning of that thought that maybe this could be better. Maybe this could be different. Maybe I don't want to do this anymore. Maybe I'm just going along to get along, and I don't want to do that anymore. And so we start to have that thought in whatever area of our lives, or I'm sick to death of this situation with my money or with my health or with my whatever. And so we just get that thought, and then we get the tap on the shoulder, and then we get a little bit stronger and a little bit stronger. And so until the divine discontent gets to the point of where we say, okay, what do I need to change about my belief, and it's so that this experience will change? It's like, and I travel a lot, as many of you know, and so it's like there's a seat in first class with your name on it, but you're back in coach in the last row in the middle, just ahead of the restrooms. So your seat doesn't recline. It's not even economy plus coach. It's coach, so you're seated like this, and you can't quite take a deep breath because there isn't room. Been there, done that, right? The opportunity is to upgrade. Always, always, always. But we have to look at what we believe about it and change those beliefs in order to get that seat that's waiting for us in first class with the warm mixed nuts and the towel and the glass of wine if you want and all the rest of that. So Wednesday is Valentine's Day, and if you have a beloved, you need to be, and I will never tell you what you need to be doing, but you need to be going to Sears or wherever and going to Hallmark or wherever and doing what you need to do. But our focus today is not only on that, but also what do we do to ourselves and for ourselves to reflect what we believe about ourselves, our worth and our value, and will we be our own Valentine? So it's okay. Do you have areas in your life that it's okay? And we're not particularly, so it's the middle seat, but it's closer to first class. So it's not there yet, but you got a little more leg room and you can recline if you want to, and it's all right. It's not what we would have preferred, but it's all right. And that's all right. But there's always the opportunity for something more and something better and something greater. But what we have to do is change. And I'll talk much more about that. Because how often do we let our good get in the way of our better? It's okay. This job, it's okay. This situation, it's okay. But how important it is to recognize that we don't have to let our good get in the way of our better. It might be about doing, being, or having something new. So you see whatever it is, or you have the thought, and your tail starts to wag. Probably not literally, but whatever you want. But wouldn't it be fun too? How many of us, and you don't have to answer this question, but how many of us have bucket lists, and how long are we waiting on the bucket list until we start to cross things off? I don't want to wait. I want to do whatever it is now. And because life always says yes to us, there is always a way to make that happen in no matter what the situation is. So it might be doing, being, or having something new. It might also be about stopping doing something, stopping believing something. I've been in this teaching a long time, and I still have a little bit of drama mind. So, committed to this, great, it's going to be wonderful, but then what if, and what if? So, this morning, I spoke at CSL Midtown in Atlanta, Georgia. I know, time travel's pretty cool, huh? On Zoom, I know, right? On Zoom. 8 o'clock, because their service starts at 11 Eastern, so 8 o'clock Pacific. So I was there in my dining room, and everything worked perfectly. But my ego says, oh God, what is the internet going to work? Is it going to be, are you going to oversleep? What if it goes over time and then they had a short discussion period afterwards? What if this discussion period goes over? Are you going to make it to home in time? And so all of those things, and how often do we do that? All the things that could go wrong, rather than remembering all the things that could and will go right. Several weeks ago, we talked about the patterns of our thought. And if we come from that place of one disaster after another, then because life always says yes to us, that becomes our experience. If we come from a place of divine order, we can make those commitments. We can say yes to whatever it is that, again, makes our tail wag, and know that somehow, some way, life is going to go ahead of us And the Bible says, make the crooked places straight. So will go ahead of us. And of course it worked out perfectly. And of course I got here on time. And of course everything was fine. And I even had time to take the dog out. It worked out great. So those of us, so Sylvia knows this story, but nobody else does, I don't think. So last week we celebrated, those of you who were with us remember that we celebrated Reverend Suzette's birthday. And I ran up to Vaughn's to get balloons. It was kind of a blustery day, and so I got them, and I've got lots of time, and so I got them and walked out the door, and they were two together, tied with two more, and somehow the ribbon came untied, and so now I've got the bottom balloons, and someone in Poway has the top balloons. Apparently, right? And so about half a dozen people said, yeah, we saw your balloons going that way. And I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, well, for the love of God, you know, and those of you who know, you know that that's my expression when I am not happy. So walked into the store, back into the store, and I'm like, Jerry, if you would have held on to it the way you should have, you wouldn't have had these problems. So I went back to the clerk and I said, the top ones blew away, so I'm going to get a different bouquet, and let me give you my card. And she said, no, they probably weren't tied properly. So take this. And so I was thinking about this on the way home, and my very most favorite quote from Course in Miracles says, everyone and everything leans toward me to bless me. And that woman at Vaughn's, and I mean, it wasn't that much money and it wasn't a big deal, but that woman at Vaughn's didn't have to do that. She could have said, well, fool, you know, well, she wouldn't have said that, but I mean, oh, I'm so sorry, but here, and it's another X number of dollars. But that's not what she said. Everyone and everything leans toward me to bless me. It's just balloons. It's not that much money. It's not that big a deal. But it is. Because when we have this experience, we know that all of life is connected. And so the next time I have that, oh my God, experience or potential for that, I can remind myself that we call this science of mind because it works for us the same way all the time in all of our experiences. So, yeah. It's just balloons. But no, it's in every area of my life that I have that divine order and that ease and grace. That's the truth of my being. That's the truth of your being. So when we have these experiences, we can remind ourselves that, no, that's how my life works. In no matter what the situation is, with our cars, with our relationships, with our money, all of that. Balloons. Silliest thing. But all of this requires that we have to change. No, I will never tell you what you have to do. We have the opportunity to change. So why don't we? Somebody said, well, no, that's a quote in a minute. So why don't we like to change? Oh, there we go. So somebody said, change is good. You go first. Ever had that, right? Yeah, what a great idea, you know. Want to go run around the track? Absolutely. You go first. Change is the same thing, and remember Dilbert from a long time ago. So why don't we like to change? Well, because we're changing to something we've never done before, or changing to something we've never had before, or releasing something that we've carried with us, and I'll talk more about that. So there's fear of, what will I do without this? What will I do without this stuff? What will I do without this story? What will I do without this job? Even if the job is not fun and hasn't been for a really long time, who will I be without this job? Who will I be without this relationship, even if the relationship doesn't work and hasn't worked for a long time? Who will I be? So there's that fear of the unknown of the end of that change. Somebody said, might have been Wayne Dyer, fear, false evidence appearing real. But how important it is for us to recognize, why don't I want to, why am I not allowing myself to scrape the gum off my shoe, get unstuck, and step into that greater good? It's often the fear of the unknown, because we've never done this before. Even if it doesn't work, and it hasn't worked for years or decades or centuries, sometimes we are fearful of changing it just because this is new for us. Sometimes we're fearful of the change because we're worried that people will say we're worried about people and what will they think. This is review, and I talked about this several weeks ago, and you might remember, but I so love this book, Radically Content. Jamie Veron's book, and she talks, and this was really big for me because I came from a place of, I either really want to do this or I really don't want to do this, but I can't because I'm worried about what will they think. But listen to this quote. And for some of you, it will be review, but that's okay. What will they think is the question that robs us of our dreams and happiness more than any other. Who is they, and why do we care so much what they think? Who is this faceless group of people that's going to come for us if we don't measure up to their ideal? And why are we not really encouraged to examine this idea we take as an absolute inconvertible truth? We don't need to spend our life in pursuits of achievements that have no real value to us internally. The goal is to be the most expressed version of yourself. You should feel free to jump in the pool with your bathing suit on or off, my words, not hers, to wear sleeveless dresses, to love with abandon, to create the art that lights you up, to construct and build an entire life that is so you, there's no room for comparison. You deserve to love your life so much that it doesn't matter who affirms or denies you. This book it's on Amazon, and it is absolutely just amazing. So why don't we change? Why don't we allow ourselves to step into that greater good? So there's fear and resistance. There's expanding boundaries and expressing new and embracing new experiences. Maya Angelou said, "This is a wonderful day. I've never seen this one before." Ever been, well, you no doubt have, but in recent memory, been someplace you've never been before? Done something you've never done before? I don't know about you, but it's just, to me, it totally makes my tail wag. And in 2024, we never have to worry about it because we have maps. We have Google Maps, we have Apple Maps, we have, I don't know, it's somebody else's maps if you have an Android. But we always know, because not only do we need to know, but our technology will help us get to wherever it is we're going. So you don't want to go to Iceland, that's okay. You want to go to Iceland? Let's talk, because I want to meet a puffin. I just really want to do that. A puffin, the little bird looking, yes, yeah, just absolutely, I definitely want to do that. And then our beliefs, overcoming those limiting beliefs. And again, what do we come from that place of drama mind? Well, I'd love to try that, but it'll probably be a disaster, or I don't know how to do that. I don't have enough. I don't know. I don't have enough. I'm not enough. I don't have enough money. Do we use the terms fixed income? Do we say that? And if we say that, I so invite us to go get the Listerine and wash our mouths out. Because again, quoting my friend Edwene Gaines, if we have a fixed income, who fixed it? Because money is not pie. Money is not pie. But again, life always says yes to us. So if we believe that, life says, well, okay, if that's what you believe, then there we go. But we can change that because it's our belief. So we can absolutely change that. Speaking of Edwene, she wrote The 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity. And in the book, she writes, each time you push yourself through your fears, you unfold that person within and take one step closer to being the powerful and unstoppable creature that you were brought to earth to be. Absolutely amazing, amazing book. So how do we do this? How do we change our experience from it's just okay into yes, thank you, and more, please? How do we do that? We start out by embracing discomfort and allowing ourselves to say, I don't know. I don't know. The sacred, I don't know. Sounds like a Sunday talk. But because when I did and you might have heard me say this before, when I did my practitioner test, my affirmation was, I always know what I need to know when I need to know it. I don't know how whatever this is going to happen in August. And in February, I don't need to know. But if I'm limiting my experiences in February and worrying about how it's going to happen in August, I'm missing out on the good that life has for me. I always know what I need to know because we think with the mind of God. Because there's only one. And so we always know when we need to know. So we embrace discomfort. We embrace failure as learning. Now, failure or looking, I'll say looking foolish. My words, not anybody else's. So as many of you know, I have a Tesla. It's just the coolest thing. I just really wanted a Tesla. No idea how it works. No idea how to charge it. No idea about anything. A little bit of stark terror that I'm going to do something and it's going to explode. But the good news is, and this is not a positive expression, but it really is idiot proof. So you can't screw it up. So got it. And I'm just in heaven. And you have to charge it because it's electric. So I got the charger installed and went and plugged it in and set it up, and away we go, and it count 1, 2, 3 and clicked off. Okay. So I had one installed in my garage, so I can do it from home overnight. When electricity rates are lower, and so it just drip, but it wouldn't. So I called the electrician, and he came out and said, "Well, remember, it only, because it's on household current, it only charges up to 24 amps, I think it is. And the box that I have goes to 48, but you just have to adjust it to 24. And it says that on the box." And I said, "For the love of God." I know, right? Read the directions. I'm a man. We don't read directions or maps, right? Right? We figure this out for ourselves. Thank you. And the guy could not have been more gracious. And he said, "A lot of people do this. Don't worry about it." Didn't charge me for the service call. It was just fine. And I got to be embarrassed and feel foolish and then go on with my life. It works the first time and it's wonderful, or it doesn't. And so we go back and adjust. And it's okay. It's absolutely okay. But how do we limit ourselves to the change and the greater good because we're fearful that we're not going to know what to do or we're going to do it wrong? And then celebrate our victories, because I've had it for a year and a half and it hasn't blown up. Nothing has happened. It's been absolutely wonderful. So we celebrate. I did that again. If I did that, I can do what's next, and I can step out of that comfort zone, those things that I've never done before that I really want to, and do whatever it is. Because all of this that we're talking about is like a muscle. And so every time we step out into a different comfort zone or out of our comfort zone and into a new experience, like saying no, like asking for what we want, like changing a belief, like forgiving. All of these things, every time we do that, we're working that and strengthening that muscle, and so we can do it again in another area of our lives, and again in another area of our lives. Now, the truth is, we don't have to do anything. You don't have to make any changes. Your life is okay exactly as it is. But if I've made you a little uncomfortable, then I've done my job. But also, maybe we can look at this doesn't work anymore, or I'd like more, or I'd like better, or I'd like greater. In the book, Creative Mind and Success, Ernest Holmes writes, "If it is the Father's good pleasure to give us the kingdom, it should be our good pleasure to accept it." Love that. So, changing our story about something that happened, changing our belief about a certain area of our lives, changing from always saying yes to saying no, changing to standing in our integrity related to ourselves, all of these changes can be scary. And they require courage. My other favorite book is Forgiveness and Other Acts of Love by Stephanie Dowrick. And she writes, and this is a little bit long, but bear with me if you would, about courage. Courage is more than voyaging. It is voyaging and reflecting. It is an engagement with the complexity of life through the body, the powers of the intellect, and what some would call heart or soul. I don't want to do this, but I choose to. I will go with this even though it's hard. I will face this with my eyes open. I am ready to move on. In the presence of courage, it becomes possible to take fear out of its hiding place, look deeply into it, ask what it wants, how it thinks it is saving you, how you could learn what it wants to teach you without feeling driven by anxiety to attack, blame, or self-justify, or to flee from your own life into the dubious safety of someone else's authority. Ever been in a situation of somebody else's authority? That's not what we're here for. That is absolutely not what we're here for, because I am the essence, expression, and experience of spirit, and I have all the wisdom necessary. And guess what? So do you. So do you. You are the expert in your life, and you get to decide what's true for you and what's not. It's all about recognizing that this divine discomfort is trying to tell us something. That there's greater opportunity for us. That we don't have to put up with this, whatever this is, anymore if it doesn't work for us. Because we're only going to be here for 110 or 120 years. You don't want to spend all that time in just schlepping along. You want to have this ridiculously amazing life. And that's what we're here to do. So the opportunity is there for us to, it requires courage. And remember, if we're talking courage, I got to have the Cowardly Lion from The Wizard of Oz. So it requires that, and then we do that. And of course, just like he did, we recognize we had it all the time. We had it all the time. So this requires changing our beliefs, our stories, and our fears, including the what will they think, and recognizing what's true for us, what resonates for us, and what does not. My very, 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 very most favorite quote, or at least in the top three, and the day came when the risk to remain tied in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. So what will we do this afternoon to begin to blossom? Because if nothing changes, nothing changes. So with that in mind, join me in the light for just a minute. So we stay in this consciousness of oneness, in the recognition of our oneness with the God presence, with one another, and with all of life. We give great thanks for the opportunity to be together today, to just be reminded of our truth. That's because that's all we ever do. And moving forward, we allow ourselves to listen and feel that divine discontent. What is ours to do? What is ours to not do? What do we believe, and is it really true for us? And we move forward having the courage and the wisdom and the love for ourselves to begin to make those changes that will allow us to live our best life and to make 2024 our best year. Knowing that life always says yes. And we respond with yes, thank you, and more please. For our beloved spiritual community, for our time together, for this glorious San Diego day, we give great thanks. And together we say, and so it is.